Hi everybody, this is Andrew and I'm here with our artistic director Jeff Allen Lee
Hello everybody.
for podcast number 2.
Podcast number 2.
Alright, so we're going to talk about the Moments Notice series.
Yes, the Moments Notice series.
And
which is a wonderful series about taking notice of the world you live in and how to use your real life in the role to stand out.
Yeah, exactly.
So the moment notice, well, this actually, I teach all these different things, but then Andrew is the cognitive mind that creates these brilliant exercises. So I wanted to just ask him a few questions about how did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, definitely. Well, what I noticed was for the longest time, of course, we've been talking to students about becoming more aware. I think, students sometimes ask you, what are some of those important things you need in order to be a good actor? And you say, you need to be aware of what's happening in your day-to-day life. So, I was thinking to myself, well, how can we get the students to do this on a day-to-day basis? What is something that they do day in and day out? Cell phones, that's pretty much the common denominator amongst all these students. So how can we utilize this common daily tool towards something to capture this awareness? So the idea I had was, let's have the students capture 3 things in the course of a week that they find exciting, beautiful, interesting, wonderful, bizarre, and then just share it with the rest of the studio.
I agree, and that was the thing that I thought was so brilliant about this exercise, is because it drives me crazy that we're always on computers and cell phones, but we're not aware of the world we live in. So how can you act it? How can you kids say, I want to do an animal exercise in my class? They're like, well, you have to go to the zoo. Well, can I look at it on my phone? I go, no. You have to be in direct contact of it. So you came up with this great way of just photographing it and observing it and utilizing both things at once.
Yeah, well, I think it was just getting them aware of what bring about these feelings.
That's very important.
Yeah,
because you don't realize what you're really feeling sometimes, because we kind of ignore our feelings.
Oh, absolutely.
Day to day, we kind of just look around. We'll feel it, but we don't know the circumstances under which these things come about. And that's what you had said, that you have to be aware of your circumstances in order to be an actor. You have to be aware of your life. So I had a terrible German teacher when I was in school, and just the brick wall brings about the feelings that I felt, and I could certainly use that if I was in prison or felt like I was hiding out or wanted to hide out.
Well, the thing is, I do feel is that, when I was younger too, is that sometimes when you're feeling so much, it's easier to numb out than to be aware that you're having this feeling. Particularly, this was for the teenagers, and we do talk about this, that sometimes there can almost be this sort of numbing quality that happens throughout stretches, and I think it's because sometimes to be fully aware of these feelings can be really hard to accept unless you can create something with it.
Right.
And I think, I was a student of Jeff's years ago, and many 5 years ago, sure. We'll go with that. This is acting too. And the thing is...
You like it? Am I doing good acting? 5 years ago. All right.
And the thing is that this is somewhere where you can create great art out of these feelings. When you feel, excited or angry or scared or nervous, if you're aware of it and you have an outlet to create with it, it can be a very powerful thing.
Well, you mentioned the gummy bears.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me about, this is a really cool story.
This is really interesting, yeah. So I was working with a student on this scene where she has to be really upset with this magician who, I don't know, made her brother disappear or something. And, so of course, in this moment, this character is furious at this magician. So, I said to her, is there something in your life that you can use that brings about the sense of fury? So she said, oh yeah. This little kid, she gets furious, like tears in her eyes, and she's all furious and screaming. I'm like, whoa! And she said, let me tell you what it is. And I was at first unsure, because you don't always want them to have to share their personal things. But she said, no. And I was like, okay, well, if you really feel like you need to share and express. She said, okay. She had tears still in her eyes. And she was like, there was this kid at school. I was like, okay. Who was only nice to me because I gave them gummy bears. And that's the thing. For her, gummy bears was this super impactful thing. And I guess that's the thing, is that we want them to be empowered, that the things that they experience have meaning and value. It doesn't have to be the biggest thing in the world.
The simplest things bring about it. I mean, in the interviews I say to the students sometimes, if you got proposed, if someone proposed to you while you were eating brownies, those brownies are going to bring about the whole love in the relationship. Or if if someone died and you were eating brownies at the funeral, before the funeral, that's going to bring about sadness. The relationship to the world you live in is so important, and that's why it's so great about this exercise. Is it allows you to really be able to bring in your life full swing.
And what I found really interesting was just how these photos were so diverse in what the students found interesting. It wasn't like every student just did a picture of a Justin Bieber, poster or something like that. Like, in fact, there were tons of photos that were so different and bizarre and unique. And that's really cool because it does show that each of these kids has their own unique perspective.
Right.
And I think that if there's one thing that I guess you teach and we both preach about at the studio is for them to be empowered in what they uniquely find wonderful and special.
Absolutely. Because that's all you got.
That is.
That's your gift, is your own thing, and your own uniqueness and your own personality, your own mannerism, your own viewpoint of the world. And we're so told by the world to live like this person or that person or this person, and the news and the commercials and everything's coming at you, and you lose a sense of yourself. So by taking the time out and looking at the moment's notice, you can have your own viewpoint and bring that to the world, whether you're a filmmaker, director, actor, writer, singer, I don't care.
And this is a funny story we told about the movie Castaway. We were talking about this. One of the main characters is a volleyball. Like, that is the most, character we most emotionally connect to in the movie, a volleyball.
Right.
There were some artists out there in the world who thought, who could make a best friend that the audience is going to be totally on board with? Right. A volleyball, And to most of the world that would seem kind of crazy, and yet it worked somehow. And that's the thing, is that if only you have the confidence in your own perspective, are you going to be able to go to places like that?
Exactly.
And I thought we made a great first step with this Moment's Notice, photo series. And I'm really curious, because we've talked about developing this forward with the students to go beyond just taking a photo.
Absolutely.
But maybe creating new material, or...
Yeah, what we're trying to do is, I thought we'd take 3 of the photos and put together a story, or with a writer, or have them develop a monologue based on it. I mean, this will work for film work, cinematography, and for emotional work for actors. We are directly influenced by the world we live in, and the world we live in will create realities for us, will make us live rather than play the line and do the scene. Will actually become more real and more interesting and more exciting to watch. There's no such thing as a prop. Everything in the room here has a meaning. Everything in them, and that when you go to them, all of a sudden you're in a little scene, you feel like you're sort of overacting, and you look at the jar or the glass that has no drink in it. Think, God, I really would like to have a Snapple right now. It's silly, but that inner thought, you're seeing real life. You don't know what the person's thinking. You might be thinking about a Snapple, but the character's thinking about a Snapple, and it's an interesting thing that happens, and the auditioners go, wow. Like the Superman guy that got Superman with the burgers.
Oh, you mean Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, not Superman. Spider-Man. What was his name? You told me about that.
Yeah, Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield.
Well, yeah, so I was reading this Yahoo article about how they asked the director, why did you cast this guy Andrew Garfield, who wasn't a very big name when he got cast? He said, it was the funniest, weirdest thing. It was in this moment, not when he was like screaming or crying or, acting heroic, but the way he was eating a burger in the audition room. It was this little physical reality, and he said it just felt so real, so authentic. And I guess that's what they always talk about, is authenticity. We had a blog about this with Sofia Coppola, the film director who just did The Bling Ring, that she said one of the things she's most looking for in actors is naturalness, which is another word for authenticity.
Right.
And I guess that's the thing, right? Authenticity comes in these little details, like eating a burger.
Because all of a sudden, the director is transported to a diner, to Mel's Diner, because we've all been in diners, and all of a sudden, we're there.
Because we can't all relate to being Spider-Man, we can all relate to that moment of eating that burger. It's a thing that universally connects us. Just one last thing about the show, because, we get these letters sometimes from students who can't come to the studio. I mean, they're not students, prospective students. They come from other states or where have you. And some of them might be listening to this podcast, and they might wonder, so what do I do with this? How can I become more aware? What exercises can I do? And I guess this is one of them.
Is take pictures, write stories, write monologues. If you're not happy being somewhere, or you feel like you're not significant because you're just a school kid, realize that that's not true. And look at the sunset and write about your dreams and put maps together on how you're going to get there. But also just look about it, because you can tell. I was that kid. I was in Detroit, and I was unhappy. See the siren coming by? I was.
Now we're in the big city
Now
where
the
sirens
big
are always
city,
going.
sirens are going. But I was very unhappy, and I really wanted to be an actor, and I started this school because of it. It's because I think you got to realize that you matter as a person, and your viewpoints matter, and you have some beautiful art that you can make through film and through acting, and we encourage you to take the steps forward. And write us, email us if you have questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And feel free to share us. If you find things, if you take some interesting pictures, I think feel free to share that with the studio, and we'll share it with the community, where we're always fascinated with what excites and interests and thrills the students and young developing artists. So excellent, Jeff. Well, this has been great. We will hopefully do another one of these
tune in next time for podcast 3.
Yes, well, thank you so much for listening. This has been Andrew and
Jeff at Young Actors Studio.
Thank you so much. And again, you can visit us at youngactorstudio.com.